Okay. So I'm Mireille Besson from the National Center for Scientific Research in Marseille and Aix-Marseille University. And for a long time, I've been interested in what's happening in the brain when you are learning novel word. And more recently, I've been interested in how to teach French to adult migrants. And therefore, I'm very happy to be here because it's really both of my interests that are joined together. And I'm really happy to be in this group, which is very dynamic and also at the beginning, I think, of something new that can have very important societal consequences. So first, I want to acknowledge my collaborators, two graduate students, Mylène Barbarou and Eva Littinger, who did their PhD work with me on novel word learning in French, and also Stéphane Elmer from the University of Zurich and Anthony Rodriguez Fornel from the University of Barcelona. So you are going to be presented with picture, and then you are going to hear a word. I'm going to say the word. And what you have to do is you have to learn so this one here. Okay. So you see, you have a picture that is presented on the screen, and then it's followed by a word, ba, and then you have to learn that in this language, a beer is said ba. Then you have another picture, an eye, and in this new language, this is said pa. And a flower in this new language, it is said pa. Okay? And so you have to learn this association. So in the word learning phase, we ask students, they are students from our university, to learn 9 natural Thai words. These words were Thai words, monosyllabic, and they vary in voicing, vowel duration, and aspiration. I'm not going to go into much detail for the sake of time, but importantly, they have to learn 9 picture sound association, 9 pairs. Each pair is presented 20 times because repetition is really important when you are learning. And they are presented with 2 blocks of 3 minutes each. So it goes very fast. You know, it's kind of a fast process. And no overt response. In the word learning phase, we only ask subject, learn the association in your head. Then, of course, we want to know whether the subject have been learning or not. So we present them with a matching task. And we say, was I associated with pa? Yes, it was. So if they say yes, it's a correct response. If they say no, that's a wrong response. And the same for the following. Flower was not associated with pa. It was associated with pa, with aspiration. So the right response was no. And here we have again all the pairs that are presented 20 times, and half are yes responses and half are no responses in 2 blocks again, because that's also a very important point in learning, is that you don't want the blocks to be too long for the students to be able to really focus attention. You know, and attention is very short lapse, so we had very short blocks. And finally, we have a semantic task to know whether the meaning of the word was really integrated in semantic memory. So we didn't present the same picture, but a semantically related picture. So for instance, if you see a book and then you hear pa, yes, it is related because you read with your eyes, okay? So the response is yes. By contrast, if you see something for cutting the flower, it's not related to pa. And again, here we have repetition 12 times, half are related, half are unrelated, and 2 blocks of 4 minutes for the same reason of sustaining attention, because it's pretty intensive. As I mentioned, I'm interested in what's happening in the brain. So I'm not going to go into detail, but we record the brain electrical activity, the electroencephalogram, and we analyze what is called the event-related potential. That is the change in brain electrical activity that are time-locked to the presentation of a specific event. Here, the specific event is the word pa, for instance. So here is the design. We can go back to that if you are interested. So results in the word learning phase. Again, I'm not going to go into much details, but these recordings are from the frontal electrode that is here. And based on previous literature, we knew that we should have an N400 component that developed. This N400 component is here. It's very well known in the neurolinguistic literature. And so what we wanted to know is how it will develop when learning a meaning of a novel word. And here you have compared the block 1, so 3 minutes, with the repetition of the picture pair association, and then the 3 next minutes, okay? And you see that you have a difference between the two. So what that means is that you can generate a change in electrical activity in 3 minutes, so that there is very fast brain plasticity. And I'm very convinced of that. We can learn very, very, very quickly, okay? And when we teach, we should take advantage of that. Of course, you know, then the problem is, what are you going to remember? And that's what we know in the matching task, because the matching task is after something like 10 minutes. So it is in some way short-term memory already. And you see that we have this N400 again. So here are the words that do not match with what the subject have learned, and here the words that match. So when the association match what the participants have been learning, their brain reacts differently than when it doesn't match. So in some way, it is a real proof that they have been learning, because if they had not been learning, the brain reaction would be the same. No difference between learn and unlearn. So here you see the difference between yes and no responses that show you that in short-term memory, you have a trace of what happened during the learning phase. And now in the semantic task, this is the typical task used in neurolinguistic. And you see, we have the N400 again, and the N400 is larger when the word is not related to the picture than when it is related. So that shows that the participants of this study have built semantic representation of the word we were teaching them. And this only in 3 minutes. So I think it's really important to, an important result that in the learning phase, we had very fast brain plasticity. Your brain changes very rapidly. And we were able to demonstrate that it has some short-term memory consequences by using the matching and the semantic task. Also, what is interesting is that the N400s change from frontal in the learning phase to parietal in the matching and semantic task. And that's something that we were expecting also based on the literature. And we can discuss that later if you are interested. And so the main message of my talk is that learning the meaning of novel word is a very fast process that only takes a few minutes and leaves long-lasting traces in short-term memory. Of course, these results were university students in Marseille, and so that will be very interesting to see whether we get some similar results with people who are not from the same culture, who may not be literate, and also it will be interesting to manipulate several factors. This is a perspective for future research, like for instance, attention, motivation, repetition, ecological context, positive feedback, and many other ones. So with this, I thank you for your attention.